Hey, everybody, this is Jacob Stoops, and we are back for another season, season 3 of the Page 2 podcast. And as always, I am your host, and I am here with my co host, Mr. Jeff Luella. Jeff, how's it going?
It's going well. It's great to be back.
You made it back to season 3.
Yes, I didn't get fired.
You did not get
Well, at
fired.
least at this job.
Not this job. So, if you happen to be perusing Jeff's LinkedIn profile, there has definitely been a little bit of a change, and certainly will talk about that. And we are just going to give you guys just kind of an idea of what is coming in season 3. And probably the number one thing that is coming is you're going to see a lot more of these pretty faces because we are going to be taking our podcast to YouTube. And we're going to be maintaining a YouTube channel for those that just want to watch us while we talk instead of just hear our beautiful voices. And I've been told that I have a face for radio. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing. So you guys are just going to have to suffer.
It's all good.
Yeah. So we alluded to some interesting developments that happened right after season 3, and I'm going to caveat this before I let Jeff talk that this is definitely not a shit on the company that I still work for sort of conversation. But that being said, I will let Jeff kind of share the news.
Yeah, so a lot of you may know, a lot of you may not know, but there's this pandemic going around, COVID-19, and a lot of companies had to make some cuts and reshift based off of just client work. And in the agency world, it was hit pretty hard by some companies. Some companies did well, other companies kind of went on like a freeze, and a lot of clients that we had went on a freeze to hold back, and some just didn't have money. So the company had to go through some layoffs. There was 10 of us laid off, and I was one of the lucky ones to be laid off. But no, everything is good. It was a good chance for me to step back and just figure out what I wanted to do and take some of that time to find a new place. And I ended up landing at the New York Times on their Wirecutter team.
So what is it like to get laid off in the middle of a global pandemic?
It wasn't great. At first it wasn't too bad, but after, interviewing at a bunch of companies, you realize there wasn't a lot of companies that were hiring out there. A lot of people wanted to talk. A lot of people were very interested in me coming to work for them, but it was one of those where they were waiting till August or waiting till September for a hiring freeze to happen. And fortunately, Search Discovery did give me a severance package, which was great. Gave me a couple of months to hunker down and find something good. And over that, things went well. I mean, it took a while to do it, but exactly the same time my severance package ran out, I had a new job by that time. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say I thought what Search Discovery did, they didn't have to do that, right? It was a time of incredible uncertainty,
I was
and
lucky.
while it really sucked, it sucked not just for you obviously as being the one that's lost your job. It sucked for everybody. It sucked for it was one of the worst professional days, and I didn't even get fired that I've probably ever had. But that being said, they did allow the people that were let go a lot of runway. It wasn't like we just walked in and Jeff's gone. They took all the stuff from his desk, right, and they escorted him out and didn't let him what do you call it? What they lock your computer or whatever. Like
Yeah.
if you've done something bad, they don't even give you a chance to clean up. So Jeff got to stay for a little bit while he was
Yep.
and make a smoother transition
Transition.
out. Yeah, while he was looking for a new gig. How many interviews did you go through?
It was a lot. I think it was like 18. Not all 18 different companies, but like a lot of them with different companies there, and or a lot of this interviews with the same company. New York Times, I actually interviewed, I think, 8 different times. So it started off as just some talks, and then it moved into into the realness of it. And then there was a few people they were choosing from, and broke it down. The one benefit that every company has during COVID, if you have the money, you basically have the power in those situations. So good thing is you get to pick the best person you think for the job, right? There was a lot of people out there that were looking. Um, but no, overall, I mean, the experience was great. Got to talk to a lot of different companies, just understanding what those companies do. Sometimes it's just good to talk and learn, what you're doing and what might fit you best. And it just happened New York Times was kind of that fit for me.
And did you or did you not almost get recruited to a super team?
I think I was recruited to a super team, but then I didn't have anything after that. So super team was a good concept, but I think it was a super team of contractors. So
Super team of contractors. Yeah, that sounds like it was a solid plan
yes. Hey,
by
maybe the
whoever
team
it
might still
was.
be going on. I might just be the outlier. So we'll see.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, this podcast is definitely about talking about the reality of being an SEO. So while I certainly don't want to be in any hot water from my company for actually talking about something that
Yeah.
happened within the company, um, we can't run a show like this without talking about it, because that's as real as it gets. That's my worst
Yeah.
nightmare, getting fired. And you have kids. I obviously I've got small kids, and I just can't imagine going through that, especially with so much uncertainty. So kudos to you, man, for landing on your feet.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is having a network pays greatly. Um, just having friends on the internet that do the same thing. So between the podcast and running the Tech SEO subreddit, and just running the AMAs with a lot of high-end people. When I was announced that I got laid off, that many of them reached out with openings they knew about. There was a ton of in the very beginning of COVID, there were a ton of like forums and things like that where people were just posting jobs left and right. So it was a really good uh, through the SEO kind of industry kind of got together and really was helping people out, which was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, there were people doling out free work, yourself included, free
yeah,
consulting. Yeah, it's sometimes the SEO industry is the type of industry where we eat our own young, and then there are other times where it's quite amazing, where people come together for people that you only know online, and it makes a difference. It certainly made a
yeah,
difference for you. So.
totally. Yeah, it was great.
Cool. You might want to, in case you're following the podcast, you might want to know what I've been doing all summer. I would say one, dealing with the fallout from losing Mr. Jeff from the search discovery team. I would say that the interesting thing about our team is that within the company, some of the layoffs, I would say, and again, search discovery has been excellent throughout this process. I love working, and I still want to be working there for many years. And they've been very open and communicative, and just very candid with the folks that remain. They have a weekly Q&A session with the president and the CEO, basically just kind of being real and laying it out there and saying, this is exactly what's going on. This is exactly what what we're thinking. And this is exactly the situation that we're in. And over the course of time, things have certainly improved, but it was pretty touch and go there for a while. And I will say, on the SEO side of the house, and that's just one small aspect of what we do as a company, um, it was hard. We lost two people, and then halfway through, one person left. So we went from having a person of 10 to a smaller team of 7, still doing the work of 10 people, because you're not hiring during a pandemic, and you're just trying to maintain and keep the company doing what it needs to be doing until the client confidence comes back, and certainty kind of comes back. And the good news is it's coming back. But but the SEO team was like the little engine that could. We never stopped, man. We've been spinning on our, standing on our heads like a hockey goaltender, and our clients are very happy. One that paused came back. So we're doing work, we're winning work. We've been standing on our heads through this entire pandemic. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to say that it wasn't stressful. It's been amongst the most stressful stretches of my personal career, for a lot of reasons, not all work related. For those of you that are parents out there, you're not alone. Starting in March, we became not just parents and not just employees, but both. So, I'm trying to work my 40-hour-a-week schedule. Jeff, I'm sure you were kind of in the same boat.
And being a teacher on top of it.
And oh, by the way, you're a teacher too. And thank God the summer hit when it hit. My wife is a teacher, and I can attest that starting in March through the end of the year, best way I can describe it in terms of how the teaching profession in schools were able to adapt is it was a shit show, to be quite honest. They were not ready for a global pandemic. And my wife, who is not an actual classroom teacher any longer, she did that for about 13 years. And she's a curriculum coach, which is basically, instead of teaching the students, she's teaching the teachers. She's the coach and mentor now to the teachers. And there were a lot of teachers that were just not technologically savvy enough between that time period from March up until the end of the last school year, that it just, nothing was getting done. My wife became actually like their IT support more so than their curriculum coach.
Crazy.
But the summer passed. We all got a reprieve. If this had happened last year in the fall and we would have had to go through the entire school year without a break, it would have been bad news. The summer passed. It gave school districts time to take a breath and figure out a plan. And now, no matter what you think of that plan, and it seems like every school district and every county across the entire country has a completely different plan to address COVID, and none are exactly the same. I can just say, from being with my wife and dealing with my kids, things are a lot more stable now than they were. And I myself, while I was mentally exhausted and quite honestly losing it, I feel like coming into the fall, we knew it was going to be tough as parents, and the students also knew it was going to be tough with all of the restrictions. But I think that now that we have kind of gotten used to this new normal, and we had a better idea of what to expect, what was coming, what types of things that we as parents were going to be responsible for, not like March, where you flip the switch and all of a sudden we're teachers and we're taking on both. We had some time to plan and prepare. I feel like I'm handling it a lot better, and I'm not pulling my hair out. Now, that's not to say that my son being, he's home. My daughter's in preschool, so there's still that. My son is home. He's in second grade. And of course, we've got the 1-year-old. There have been days where it's been tougher. I would say about 25% of the days that my son's been home, we've had issues. I'll just say issues, where it's been really, really pretty rough. But other than that, it's been going pretty smoothly. So hopefully everybody out there, again, this podcast is about letting people know that you're not alone. There are other people going through it in more ways than one, and that's definitely one of the ways. And I would say at the beginning or towards the middle and end of last season, we started to, at first it started as a joke, right? It was like, yeah, let's talk about COVID. And then once I think we realized the seriousness of it, I mean, what do you do? I think we had to start, and maybe this was just the way that the entire country went. We had to start taking it more seriously.
Yep.
And it was a little bit more dire. And obviously there have been a ton of, people. I think the last count, I think it's over 200,000 now that have passed away from COVID, and many millions that have actually gotten it. We've had a few COVID scares in the in the Stoops household, which basically any cold symptom is a COVID scare these days. So
Yes.
we've now had 2 COVID scares. Luckily, we haven't gotten it. Fingers crossed. But I would say coming into the end of last season, or I think it was something that slowly but surely permeated everything that we did on the show, and I think that it's going to continue to be that way probably until next year. So all of season 3, we're probably going to have no choice but to talk about the impact of COVID, not just on our personal lives, but
Right.
with what we do, which is SEO for sure. Cool. So let's talk about one more thing in terms of the what happened. And I know I'm being super long-winded. When we got to the end of season 2, with everything going on, I think I did have to ask myself a question like, Jake, do you want to continue doing this? Are you still passionate about this podcast? You've done 50 episodes now, it's been a labor of love. It is no small task to do 50, basically 1 and sometimes 2-hour episodes. That's a lot of me talking out there on the internet. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into a podcast. That the recording part is the easy part. With the exception of Jeff and I working through the technical difficulty that has been episode 51, which this is actually the second time that we're recording it, because we had some major audio issues, and nobody that does a podcast talks about that type of stuff, between the booking of guests, the editing time, the time that it takes to actually create a brand, preparing show prep. There's a lot that goes into it. It's like an iceberg, right? There's 20% above water and 80% below the water. It's like a duck, right? You see the duck is calm above the water, and the feet are spinning below the water for sure. So I had to ask myself, like, and Jeff, I'm sure you probably as well. It was touch and go with you, as you're transitioning into a new role, like whether or not you're going to stick around and be a part of this. And for me, I was burnt out by the end of season 2, and just really kind of questioning, like, do I want to continue to do this? And now that we've had a few months off, I can say for certain, I've gotten the itch again. I definitely am excited to start recording season 3. There is no shortage of amazing SEOs, which makes me realize that with the format that we have, which isn't straight knowledge dropping, we can do this in perpetuity for as long as we want. We've got years worth of content and years worth of SEOs to talk to. And it's by no means the way that we've connected with people thus far has been completely organic, which is kind of funny to say for the industry that we're in. But it hasn't been force ranked by like, hey, we're going to start with the best and work our way down the rankings. It's just been like, hey, we bumped into this person who bumped into this person who referred us to this person. And pretty soon we're at 50 episodes. So we've got a lot more amazing people to talk to. But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I've got the itch again. I'm ready to roll. I am committed. I am all in on season 3. It was a little touch and go there for a while, but I'm in.
No, it's been great. I think in the couple months that I had off, I was itching to do something. And then as soon as I started the new gig, things piled on pretty quickly. I'm in the affiliate market now with Wirecutter, and it's interesting, all the different industries and when their hot times are and when their off times are. And usually in e-commerce, you have your Black Fridays and things like that, but our big day was last week. One of our big days was last week with Prime Day. I will say we grew 300% since last year during that time. So at least with traffic coming in. So I don't know any of the other numbers right now except for traffic, but it is interesting getting millions of visitors in a day.
And how much content, not the Wirecutter, because you've already told
Yeah.
me that, but does the New York
Yeah.
Times? Because when I heard the number, I was like, holy shit, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I mean, I think the New York Times is, I used to have the numbers written down, but it was something like 300 pieces a day or something over all of the New York Times. So that's between news and cooking and Wirecutter and their everyone's blogs and things like that. So it is a ridiculous number of content all around. Wirecutter ourselves, like we're very evergreen in a lot of our reviews because there's only like the best headphones, and we just update those pages as we get new data and new headphones in. But our blog is growing, but we're still not nearly anywhere like the New York Times. The Times itself, are the news organization, is just pumps out articles nonstop. Like Trump's tax returns.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the interesting thing is it's not like you can optimize the news, right? You're not responsible for the news.
Right.
It's so non-traditional from what normal SEO almost is. What you have to do, especially at that scale, is make sure that the mechanisms by which the news gets pushed out are the things that are
Exactly.
optimized, not the actual, you're not sitting around fiddling with H1 text or page titles or
Yeah.
at least I
No.
don't think you are.
No, and some of the bigger like editorials and bigger articles, definitely they are doing that also. But when it comes to just the constant news that's going, it is the process. It is the making sure we're hooked up into Google. Interesting when you're on like a big organization. One thing I learned, our news, we had a little bug in it, and Google actually reached out to us to tell us we had a bug in one of our feeds, which is the first time I think I have ever had that pleasure of Google kind of warning. I mean, it was kind of like, hey, fix this or you won't be in the news, type of things. But the New York Times is one of those organizations that, like, people really, we have 10 million subscribers and things like that. So that's our goal, that Google knows that, like, if there was an error, it's like in their best interest to help us fix it.
So now that you've been in agency your whole career, you've been in-house 3 months, 2 months.
Yeah.
What's it like? What are the big differences?
The biggest difference I could say is that I'm not fighting for contracts every 6 months to a year. I get the plan pretty far out. I mean, when someone asked me what was like my goals for next year, that was kind of the biggest, like, wait, like I'm usually having, as an agency SEO, you're kind of proving your value all the time. Once you prove that for a while, maybe you gain the trust where you get to experiment and think for the future. But for the most part, it's like that stress of not having to upsell and there's different types of selling going on. It's not worried about a contract, but it's trying to sell to the dev teams, because everybody at every company, the devs are understaffed usually and overworked, and you're trying to get your work pushed over someone who does newsletters or someone that does a different type of marketing on the site. Like, we all are trying to work at the same site, but that's also a benefit. Like, we're all on the same site. If something I want pushed live doesn't, I don't hit it on the first swing, I get 10 more swings at it. So I have many times to go through and then reformulate and repitch. While a lot of times you don't get that chance in the agency, again, the agency, you get a lot of variety, which is awesome. I think after being at agencies about 20 years, it's been nice to just been able to ultra focus, and I've been developing some tools internally that'll help us when we are in a big sale event, and we have to track rankings like every hour to see where we're at. I developed like a screenshot tool that takes a screenshot of all the top stories just to make sure, like, hey, find out when we were there and when we fall out, and when we do things like that, where a lot of times in a regular SEO job, like, hourly is not important. But when your biggest day is Prime Day, we kind of went crazy and did as much tracking as we can.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've done a little bit of both, and I would say my experience has been like polar opposites. Like when I've been in-house, not to say that I didn't do anything, but it's like so focused that, like, there was a certain point where it's like, you can't see me twiddling my thumbs, or at least I felt like I was twiddling my thumbs, right? And I was getting the itch, like, okay, what's next? What's next? And it was a little bit of hurry up and wait. Whereas in agency life, right, every minute of your day is billable and accounted for, or you're pitching for work, and there's a high pressure to perform with a lot less ability to affect execution, which is a giant pain in the ass. It really is.
I agree.
It really is, really is. And you're constantly having to prove yourself. And not to say that you don't have to prove yourself in-house or that it is easier. It's just different. It's way different.
You just need a site that has 300 million visitors a year.
Yeah, where you can just pull small levers that have big results when you extrapolate them out. Yeah,
2% on that is huge.
Statistically significant for big sites, statistically insignificant for really tiny sites.
Yep.
Cool. So let's talk about the format of this season versus last season. So I'm just going to say we're going back to the roots. We're going back to introspective. Not to say that we won't talk about certain things that we talked about last season, but last season it was interviews. That's going to remain. That's going to be a key component to what we're doing. And then it was news. And then it was a deep dive on a predetermined topic. And what we found out, and God bless Jeff, because he was the one that did a lot of the show prep for the news. There ain't a lot of news in SEO that breaks on a week-to-week basis. So and not only that, it just was an exercise in me just complaining about different things. It's not evergreen for the most part. It's just me yelling about Google. And for people that might be like listening to an episode last year, you're going to hear me yelling about some obscure Google update that just was relevant for like a day and not relevant anymore. So we decided, like, there's no value to kind of keeping that section around. We're probably not going to necessarily do a deep dive. We're just going to let the conversations kind of take us wherever they go. And for those of you, maybe you've seen the show Inside the Actors Studio. I believe the host's name is James Lipton. We're not going to be that smug. And maybe, if you like him,
I will.
Great. Well, Jeff will. I'm
a smug kind of guy.
I won't be that smug, but the goal would be to really kind of probe deep into the minds and the experiences of SEOs, and just talk about both where they come from and what it's like, and to get really deep and to just let the conversation meander where it may. We'll certainly have, I think, sitting in the background, some interesting questions, as I'm sure Mr. Lipton does when he grills all of these famous actors. Well, we're going to be putting famous and not so famous, and everybody in between SEOs on our little hot seat. So that's kind of what we're doing this year. Jeff, you want to talk about some of the
I just lost you, I think.
Oh yeah, do you want to talk? Yeah, sorry. That's hitting mute by accident. So Jeff, do you want to talk about some of the guests that we've got booked for season 3 and kind of what's coming there?
Yeah. So I know we have Jairus from Red Hat, and
Jennifer Colosio.
Yeah. So we have them coming up, I think, next week. Joe Hall from Hall Analysis. Hamlet Batista, and Christina. I think she just goes by Christina now.
Yeah, Christina Azarenko.
She's just one word now, though. She's like Madonna.
Hey, if you can become one name, I think.
Yeah, Alita did it.
Like Alita, yeah, you could become one name in SEO, and people know who you are. I think you're doing it right. Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever do that with just Jeff.
Yeah, no. Definitely not. I don't think I can do it with just Jake either. So it might just have to be my last name.
Yeah, Stoops can hit.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So those are the first 5 guests. And on our show, we strive to maintain a certain level of balance. And we want to continue to maintain that level of balance. We do pride ourselves on having a diverse group of speakers. So this season's going to run about 25 episodes. just like anything, we're booked out through about November. But like I said, when you're running a podcast, I'm not going to be booking until March, even though I know that we're going to be running the show. It's going to take until March to get through to episode 75, but we're going to be pushing to episode 75. We're hoping to interview 24 or 25 really amazing SEOs. And, we've certainly got some people in mind that we're going to be reaching out to and booking, but the booking process is certainly fluid. We found that out at the end of last season when, we had to be pretty fluid, when booking guests, and we had to, sometimes move dates around or re-swizzle the lineup, and
it all worked out.
It worked out. We really, really talked to some amazing people, and
that's because you're a master swizzler.
I'm a master negotiator and master swizzler. And honestly, really what I'm good at is just bothering the shit out of people until they say, yes, I'll come on your show. Now stop bothering me through Twitter. So that's what's in store. That's what's coming up for season 3. We're excited, and we're going to have some really, really great conversations yet again.
Luckily, there's a million amazing SEOs out there. So, yeah,
like I said, we have, we could probably do this for 20 seasons and still not get to everybody. So we're really excited. I think we've hit on a long-term podcast, and we're really excited. We grew last season even more than we expected to. And it has kind of bolstered, I think, our confidence to go into season 3 and not worry, like, are people even going to listen to this? Well, yeah, they did listen. So we're, I'm not saying that we're like Joe Rogan or anything. We're still a niche podcast about a very niche subject with a very niche audience.
If Spotify wants to give us an exclusive deal, we can negotiate.
Yes. Time's ticking, Spotify. Time's ticking. All right. Well, so this episode, it was supposed to drop Monday. It's probably going to drop Tuesday because we are literally recording at, it is 9:56 p.m. We had like I said, some ridiculous audio issues. So we're working through the kinks before we get actual guests on. But we're super excited. And 24 more episodes coming after this. Have a good one.
Cheers.